today we have three sisters whom you have not, might not have seen yet. And Sister Rita worked in Nigeria for 45 years by July. And presently she works for an organization called Hope for the Village Child Foundation. And she will tell you more about her ministry there. And Sister Francine, can you wave to us? Okay. Sister Francine is, she lives in Great Bend, Kansas, and she is part-time staff at our Heartland Spirituality Center. And she is presently on the Assembly Chapter Planning Committee and is involved in many areas at our mother house in Great Bend. So if you ever get a chance to visit out there, you know, some of you are zooming in from Wichita, Kansas, and Arizona, and Garden City, Colorado, you're a little bit closer to her. So once the restrictions are lifted, you know, if you are in that area, just say hi to her. And then Sister Gemma is zooming in from Columbus, Ohio. And she is a former missionary, and she is also serving on our leadership team currently. So welcome, and you can take it over from here. So my understanding is that Sister Rita, you will be doing your presentation. And when you wish me to show the map, yes, just tell me that, Bea, please bring up the map slide. And I will bring it up then.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Bea, you want to put me on share screen?
Okay. So click on the green button on the bottom of your screen.
Okay. I have it.
Okay. Will you have any sound to share,
yes,
or just pictures?
I have it. I have it.
Okay. So you just click on share screen. That's it. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to get the slideshow set up.
It is.
Here we are. Good morning, everyone. I would like to know why Bea invited you all to come to see. Sorry, my internet is going unstable, and this thing is going faster than I want it to go. She's invited you all to go to see Francine, but she didn't invite you to come see me in Nigeria. And I don't know why she didn't invite you to come see me in Nigeria. So let me start this. I want to start just by asking you a few questions, but I want you to start by doing a little word association first. So the first word I'm going to show you is the word, if it's coming on here, the word tree. When you hear the word tree, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Maybe it's something like leaf or branch or elm tree or whatever. So this is how we're going to do this. So when I say this word, when you hear this word, car, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Just jot it down or something. If I say the word baby, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? If I say the word country, if I say the word Africa, what's the first thing that comes? Now, I'd like to ask you, when you thought of Africa, what was that word like? Was that word something like wild animals, or hunger, or famine, or corruption, or fighting, or violence? Or was it words like joy, color, humor, intelligence, dancing, beauty, or laughter? I'm asking you those questions because it's important to know the mindset we have when we think about Africa. Because I know in the US, sometimes the message is so negative, but I don't want you to think in terms of that. So let's talk a little bit about Africa, and I will just ask you a few questions. Number one, which is larger, the continental US or Africa? And by what percentage? I can see June is just trying to figure it out.
Africa is bigger, maybe by 3 times.
Well done. Africa is 3.7 times, 76 times as large as the US. If you look on the ordinary map we have, it doesn't look like that, but it's actually that large. What about Russia? Which is larger, Africa or Russia? And by what percentage? Again, Africa is 1.78 times larger than Russia. This is why when sometimes I meet people when I'm in the US and they say, have you met my friend from South Africa? Well, no, not quite. How many countries are there in Africa? There are 54 countries in Africa. Is most of the continent of Africa above or below the equator?
Below.
Most of it is above the equator.
Really? Wow.
So today we're talking about Nigeria. One question, is Nigeria in North, South, East, West, or Central Africa?
North?
It's in West Africa. So I'm not going to ask you a question here, but I want to put things into perspective for our talk. Nigeria's landmass is 356,000. Put the map on for a minute or so for us to see that size.
Okay,
Bea,
Sister
can you
Rita.
put the map?
Yeah.
I can't, okay. Okay, here it is. Can you see there, California, Nevada, and Utah? That's the square miles equivalent of Nigeria. All right, it's okay, Bea, you can take it off. I have to get back to mine, I think. Okay, now, if we look at that size, the population of Nigeria now is approximately 206 million people. 206 million. The population of the United States is 331 million. So that means that Nigeria has a population of a size about 2/3 of that of the entire United States, including Alaska and Hawaii. I'm bringing out that fact because as we talk about what's happening in Nigeria, poverty, sometimes violence and that, it's important that we realize the socioeconomic, geographic, all that type of situation. And I'm going to now let Gemma tell you more about how did we get to Nigeria and so on. So over to Gemma.
At this time, can we ask you to stop sharing screen? Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Rita. You kind of set the context of where we are and where we might be going. At least when we were the Great Bend Dominicans in Kansas, when we celebrated our 50th anniversary, we started in 1902. In 1952, the sisters asked themselves, what return can we make to the Lord for all the blessings that God has given us? And their impulse was to begin a mission in another country to keep spreading this Dominican charism. And so they conferred with the Dominican provincials, which are the friars, and asked them where was there a need for sisters and where could we accompany them in their missionary efforts. Now, the Dominican friars from the Central Province, which is Chicago, were just planning to start a mission in northern Nigeria, and they welcomed the sisters to join them. Two sisters in our leadership team, Sister Aloysia and Sister Benigna, traveled by ship to Nigeria to scope out and scout the possibilities. What would be needed and what kind of sisters would serve well in Nigeria as missionaries. And so they selected these four that are standing here ready to go. We have Sister Rachel on the left. I'm sorry, and then Sister Bernadette, Sister Frances Joseph, and Sister Charlotte. And these brave souls were our first missionaries to Nigeria. Sister Bernadette didn't go right when the other three went because she had to finish her midwifery course, because Sister Aloysia and Benigna determined that there was so many babies being born, they needed a nurse who was also a midwife to serve there. So the first three pioneers loaded up their supplies into large trunks and boarded a freighter ship. And they often had, not yet, Bea. They often went to, they boarded up all their supplies that they would need. And it was a lot. They took over on a freighter ship, and it took about 6 weeks, leaving from New York and arriving in Lagos, Nigeria. Now, as Rita said, Lagos is in the south, and Gusau is in the north of Nigeria. So they had about 500 miles to drive over unpaved roads with all of their belongings to finally arrive at their new mission. These sisters, Charlotte, Frances Joseph, and Rachel, joined the friars in Gusau, which is in northern Nigeria. And they worked with them and began to establish their own mission. Okay, now you can. These sisters, and more joined them later, traveled in all kinds of ways. Here you see them stuffed into a van. This was a little, really, kit car. It's a pickup. That's the back of the pickup, and it's a tiny little thing, like a little Renault that you could haul, a few pieces of firewood in. Well, the sisters all climbed in, and off they went to the bush to serve the people. The next one. You also see other means of transportation in northern Nigeria, and you still see this today. It is very, very common to see camels going back and forth and through the city streets. They settled near the friars in Gusau, Nigeria, and that's where the church was just beginning to take root. The the friars were starting what they called the prefecture, which is before a diocese in northwestern Nigeria. And the papal nuncio wanted to move more of the Catholic presence into that area. And it still today is primarily Muslim, but the Dominicans are a strong Catholic presence there. Sister Rita will say more about our work as we went through the various years, but we also started a indigenous congregation of Nigerian Dominicans sisters there. And Sister Rita will say more about that later. While the priests built the churches and the schools and the hospitals, the sisters blessed those with their dedication, their kindness, their generosity in their service to the people. And that still continues to this day. Sister Rita is a good example of that. Sister Bernadette, this is a picture of our three sisters in Malamfashi, where they started a real ministry to the women. One, to teach them to read, but also to teach them skills about how to keep their babies alive. One of the real problems was many babies while they were being weaned, died due to diarrhea or malnutrition. And so these sisters really did a lot of good work in creating better quality of life. And an old saying goes, if you teach a woman, you develop a whole culture. Now, Sister Bernadette arrived a few months after the other sisters came, and she started a maternity hospital where she delivered hundreds of babies under very dire conditions. Often in the middle of the night on the porch, there was a birth. Very tragically, she was killed, I think the next slide, she was killed in an auto accident, and Sister Frances Joseph was seriously hurt. We believed that her giving of her life was a watering of a very fertile field that has served the Nigerian vocations and Dominican charism in northwestern Nigeria as young women began to seek entrance into our congregation. And so as they more and more came and asked to be received into the congregation, the sisters decided to go to the east in Umakaya. Is that how you say that word, Rita?
Amokaya. Amokaya.
I think I misspelled it and everything. Anyway, that's in my memory. That's how it. And they began a postulancy or a prep school for young Nigerian women. And they had just really gotten it established. And then the Biafran War broke out. So they sent all those women back to their homes. And in the end, those two sisters, Sister Diane and Sister Marietta, this is Sister Marietta on this picture, had to flee during the war on a little boat out into the ocean. After the war, some of these young women headed north to find the sisters, and they became the first sisters of the Nigerian Dominicans. Unlike many other religious congregations, the Dominican sisters remained in Nigeria during the war, and it was a fearful time. They tended those in need regardless of what tribe they belonged. For many years, no other religious congregation has served in the Sokoto Diocese. But the Dominicans came, they stayed, and they responded to the changing needs of the people of God. And I'm going to have Sister Rita now kind of take us through some of those steps or stages of our response to the missionary needs in northern Nigeria.
Okay, Gemma, thank you. Am I on?
You are on. I'm not sure if you want to share screen again or not. It's up to you. If you have other pictures to show, then you would need to share screen again.
Do I have to say, sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you see my screen?
No. So if you could click on the green button at the bottom of your screen.
I have to go out of it again before I can do that. Just a minute, please.
Okay.
Just a minute. Let me go out of it again. I clicked it, but I guess it did not pick up. Share screen. Okay. I'm doing that. And then I want to get to this one, but I don't see it on here. That's my problem. I don't see it coming onto that.
Maybe try, I guess, leave the conversation and come back.
Let me try one more thing here. I think maybe I could do it if I try one more thing here. If I put it down and then I do share screen. Because without, most of mine is pictures, so I want you to see the pictures. Okay, I have it. Now, can you see it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And maybe you click on the start the presentation.
I'm doing that. Okay. Wow. All right. Now you can see me, I think. As Gemma told you, and I'm just going to clue into where she went, and I'm going to talk about some of the transitions based in the mission that we had when we started here. After the Civil War was 1966 to 1968, and Biafra tried to secede from the nation. And the people in the federal government, especially in northern Nigeria, were convinced that US supported Biafra. And so there were no visas to work in Nigeria for quite a number of years. The fact that Gemma called it a prep school, I think at that time they called it a junior rate, it was closed, and that meant that there were less people to look forward to do the ministry. But in the early 70s, as she said, some of these Nigerians came forward. Now, in 1975, 5 Great Bend sisters got visas. But at the same time that they got the visas, some other sisters who have been here for many years were beginning to look toward returning back to the United States. So it was obvious at that point that the movement toward indigenization had to be taken seriously. And it went on until in 1997 with the election of the first indigenous prioress for the Nigerian Dominican Sisters in Gusau. In 2007, they got their diocesan rights. And presently, there are more than 70 professed sisters. They have teachers, nurse midwives, social workers, a doctor, a lab technician, a pharmacist, accountants, theologians, development workers, and so on. So you can see that this process has moved far. This is a picture of the novices. Even though we're in northern Nigeria, and northern Nigeria is considered frightening for some people, and it looks like mission territory, yet these you can see the number of novices we have. Now, I want to talk about these transitions in ministry. And today I'm going to be, you're going to see a combination of pictures. Some are where the sisters are working and have started their ministries. Some are going to be where I am working at Hope for the Village Child, but I'm not working there alone because I have a Dominican from Gusau with me, Sister Julie. So it's a combination of both. The transition comes here. As Gemma told you, the fathers went there and they built schools, they built clinics. hoping the sisters will take over. But after the Civil War, there was a takeover of the mission schools and the hospitals. So the sisters then, and the fathers actually, transited to rural development, because that is something that was not a threat at that time. So they worked with rural communities, especially the women, as Gemma told you. But they also did work with established institutions, whether church institutions like a catechetical training center, or they worked in government institutions like government schools or government hospitals. And these are some pictures, for instance, of sitting around with women, training the women in different things, or digging wells. You see pictures here of the water that the people were drinking. So on the right, upper right, you see them digging a well. And on the lower left, you see Sister Regina there. That actually is a drilled, it's not a dug well, it's a drilled well for that community. And on the right, you see people celebrating their water in their new well. I put the picture on the left there on purpose because our Sister Teresita Hughes is now 101 years old. She came to visit when she was, I believe it was 87 years old. And so she's standing by one of the wells, which a family have her as is in honor of her. I think she's responsible probably for more than 200 wells. And on the right side is the people thanking for the well. Now I want to talk about governance, because governance affects how we work. In 1966, we had the beginning of the military rule at the time of the coup. Independence was 1960, 1966 was the beginning. In 75, we had another military coup. In 76, the military head of state was killed and another took his place. Until 79, finally we had an election and a handover to civilian government. But that did not last long, because in 1984, we had another military coup, 85, another one, followed by a succession of elections, cancellations, and etc. But all the governance still within the military there. So until 1999, when we had a civilian government elected, we were more or less under the military, and that has affected how people see things. It made a deep impression on the life of the people. Socioeconomic transitions also were important. When the sisters first went there, Gemma said they went on an unpaved road, but actually the situation was, at that point, they had telephone service, they had all types of service, which are not there today. Today, out of the more than 200 million people in Nigeria, 70 million are living on less than $2 a day. And that is, $1 a day, and that is known as severe poverty. The majority of these, as you can imagine, are in rural areas, and the majority are women and children. The middle class, for a while, began thriving, but now it's losing its wealth, and that's due to a variety of reasons, some national and some international, especially because of corporations. And then we have the wealthy, the very wealthy, through inheritance, through business, and sometimes through corruption. The poverty of the people is far-reaching. It affects education, affects health care, it affects their means of how they can make a better life for themselves. But the worst poverty, we say, is the feeling of helplessness. Like no matter what they do, things are not going to get better. And greatly affected by these are the youth, who are either or underemployed, and the number is high and it's rising all the time. And the result is there's indulgence in substance abuse, drugs, alcohol. Many times there's early marriage, and that has many constraints around it, sexual abuse. There's a drift to the cities, and then there's getting involved in acts of violence. And as poverty increases, more people are laid off from work, and they're without means of a dignified survival. So let's talk about healthcare. Healthcare always has involved, as Gemma said, trying to help the children and reduce maternal and infant mortality. We have we have immunization, we have helping women give birth, that's the birth of twins. We have a laboratory, as you say it in the United States. Here we say laboratory. We have the lab technician working there. You can see samples that he has collected. And those collections come from this, what you see down below. The people go to the bush and they bring back the samples for trying to determine, sometimes it's for genotyping, sometimes it's for malaria, sometimes it is for tropical illness and so on. And it's brought back to the lab. Results taken back to the people. We also had a clinic for cervical cancer and breast cancer because that is a growing problem in Nigeria. And as I said about malaria, malaria is a huge problem. We promote the use of the treated mosquito net. On the left here, we have a picture of a 11-day-old baby with neonatal tetanus. When that child was brought in, the body was stiff like that. You could pick it up and there was it was like a dried stick. Normally, that child like that would not survive, but we took it to the hospital and the picture on the right is the child that survived. The two pictures on the left, on the right, I mean, that's twins brought in severely malnourished. But you can't tell from looking at how malnourished they are. But if you look at the bottom picture closely, you see my hand on the baby's arm is as big as my ring finger or my forefinger. Then we have tuberculosis, which is also a problem. And we go out for campaigning on tuberculosis, especially on the day, International Day. The girl in the middle there standing up, she's tuberculosis free after a series of treatments. And then on the right upper one is work in the villages, training village health workers. You see that little strip of paper that's used to determine growth monitoring. And this young man in the orange hoodie, he's the one who is learning how to use it. Down below, you see Sister Julie, whom I spoke about. She is teaching the traditional birth attendants or midwives how they can work with a woman who is pregnant, how they determine what is going on, whether she's healthy, whether she needs help. We also have a program for children with rickets. The upper left-hand corner is children that we saw in one place we went to early on. The children down below, it's one family. Those 6, out of those 6, you can see the 4th one might be okay, we're not sure. The 6th one is okay, but the other 4 are severely affected, and especially the 1st and the 3rd one. They actually live in the village where our home is, and they don't come up to my waist at all. That's how crippled they are. On the right, you see that we do surgery. This boy had surgery and the doctor is strengthening the cast there. This picture is a picture on the upper left. It's a picture, this is what we call our children with special needs. And the picture is a picture of a little girl who as an infant crawled into fire. When we met her, this was the picture, the first day we met her. You can't really tell, but she has no nose on this picture. Her eyes were burned open, and she has 3 fingers on one hand and none on the other hand, and her chest was burned. So first thing meant to get her eyes fixed so that she could blink so she wouldn't go blind, and then to give her a nose. The picture below, her eye looks like that because that was the result of the operation on the nose. But she got a nose and it changed her life. And now she's a student in the sister school in Malamfashi. The picture on the upper right is an international day called We Ring the Bell. And children are encouraged to ring bells and make noise with pots and pans or whatever to call people's attention to the fact that all children have a right to education, including the people who are disabled. Lower picture, the foremost person there is sight impaired. He cannot see. He's lost sight in both eyes, but he's learned how to use musical instruments, and he's made his own album. Now we talk about education a bit. The school on the right is a government school that Hope for the Village Child works with, but the sisters also have their own schools, and that picture is the school on the, sorry, on the left I meant, and a school on the right is the sisters teaching anatomy there. School on the left, we help them to get textbooks, and the children are celebrating. There again, you see the difference in the schools. School on the left, government school, that's who Hope for the Village Child works with. School on the right is a sister school. The picture below shows students learning how to use a computer. And the school, the picture on the right, lower one, is from the sister school. They're teaching them how to decorate calabashes. It's an art class. School on the upper left again is sister school, and they're getting fed lunch. And then next to them, you see a little girl from the village who is learning to color for the first time in her life. And down below, the children never saw jigsaw puzzle before, so they're learning how to put it together. And then we have a little girl trying to figure out what comes after J. Because we had a problem with trying to get education and teachers and children more interested, we started this year peace clubs and girls clubs. These children on the upper left, this is children in our girls club, they got to make their own folders. They got to draw on them. For the first time in their life, they used scissors, they used tape. They were so excited to do things. So we were doing arts and crafts things with them. The picture on the right shows them outside, because we also do some kind of games where they learn about peacemaking. The picture below, they also learn something academic. And then we took them to a park where they, for the first time in their life, they saw animals they had never seen before, like crocodile, like this ostrich. And they were so fascinated by that. They walked through the park. There were some children's playground toys that they had never been on before, because they don't have that out in the village areas. They looked at different types of trees. And in the end, they sat down and they started talking about ecology and the earth. And after talking about it, they told the teacher what they wanted her to write. And so this group of children said, Mother Earth is our home, let us take care of her. We work with the youth on the left. We go into secondary schools sometimes and talk to them about health. On the right, we had an election at the beginning of the year, and we wanted to make sure it was violence-free. And so we had a big group. The picture down below is actually a drama where they acted out, went out for this group up above, what happens when you give in to violence, the killing, and so on. And then we have programs for girls alone, young girls. On the left, the two pictures are, you can see Empowering Girls for a Better Tomorrow. On the right, it's for teaching young girls about menstruation, and they were given, and reproductive health in general, and they were given bags with washable sanitary pads inside, sanitary cloth. And down below is about program on HIV and AIDS. I need to talk a little bit about poverty, because we talked about that. You see the woman on the right, on the left, obviously poor, little girl, probably with rickets, and putting weight on her head, which won't help the rickets, carrying water back to her house. The picture on the upper right is the kitchen. As some of you, I don't know how you would manage in this type of kitchen. Then the picture on the lower left, I think you can see a familiar face there if you know her. That's Francine when she came to visit me, standing with the family. But I wanted you to just see the house. This is the type of house they live in. And on the right, those are granaries. If a family, even extended family, can fill 3 granaries in a year, in their harvest, they're doing well. They will have food, but many cannot get up to 3 granaries. We also continue to work with the women. Sorry, my thing is running away from me again. I have to go back. I just lost my light because we have a rain coming on here, and so I'm not seeing it too well. So just give me a little bit of time here. Okay, the women in the upper right-hand corner are a group of village women sitting and planning for the year. We ask them to evaluate what happened with them before and what can they plan for the following year. And then down below, the woman standing up is the leader of the women, and she's also been voted to the traditional council. Then we have, this thing again is running away from me. Oi oi is not Nigerian, by the way. There we have the women learning farming, because women as well as men are farmers in Nigeria. And we give them a loan of sometimes, they learn how to do backyard gardening here. The first picture is learning it, second picture is the result. This is a leaf they use for their sauce. And then the third picture is a loan of fertilizer, which we give to them to help them in their farming. All of this, as I told you before, one of our main problems is that we need the people to stand for themselves. So we need to engage in advocacy. The last picture on the page down below is a group of people talking about their needs. But then that need has to be carried somewhere beyond there, to the government, to an agency, to wherever. We're working to get safe space for girls for their problems as they grow up. The picture above that on the right is a picture of traditional rulers and a picture of religious leaders asking them to meet and figure out how they can advocate with the government. The picture on the upper left is a picture of one of our traditional rulers who was very helpful to us. And for Julie again, she went to visit the traditional ruler, the man with the white cloth over the top his head, and that's some of our staff around him and standing down at his feet. They went to talk about rickets and the program there. And they call him, his title is Pope Kagoma, but Pope is not spelled P-O-P-E, it's spelled K-P-O-P. So it's Pope Kagoma. Kagoma is the place. The new reality, of course, is we're dealing with COVID now, the coronavirus, COVID-19. So the sisters now have to adjust to do their classes online. Sister in the middle is giving out bread for somebody who needs food. And on the right, one child is learning how to wash their hands properly. We also have transitions in the, sorry. I think it's because I have an unstable signal here, it's telling me, and it's not doing what it's supposed to do. Transitions in church ministry. From the beginning, the sisters engaged the people in grassroots evangelization. And they also, the novice on the right is teaching children catechism. But we also take part in parish activities. The upper left was all of the Dominican order together with the 60th anniversary of the parish in Gusau. And I think I'm right on 60th. And the picture on the upper right is children dressed up as the Dominicans who went there. It was an event for the day. The picture down below is our parish assembly, where people come in and talk about the assembly. And now I'm going the other direction. But we also get involved in the upper level diocesan affair. One of the sisters works in the bishop's office in Sokoto, and that is not unusual. Sister Claire Ann worked there years ago. And I have been involved in working on the revised pastoral plan in the Archdiocese of Kaduna. Actually, am the coordinator for the pastoral plan in the Archdiocese, and was also involved in drawing up the child and vulnerable adult protection policy for the Archdiocese. Now, here we are. This is Francine. And Francine is going to take you to the next level. I don't know if she's going to take you down the river, or she's going to take you down this road to where she might be leading you. She will have to tell you that. But before she takes you, I want you to rejoice with these people with a new well. All right, you visited me in Nigeria, and now I will let Francine take over.
Thank you, Sister Rita.
Okay, as Rita said, I've visited Nigeria. I've never been missioned there, even though way at the beginning when I was young, it was something I wanted to do. It was like a dream, but you know, all of us are called to be missionaries because of our baptism. And even if we don't consciously think about it, we really are. And Pope Francis says that by our baptism, we can give credible witness to God's love. I was telling Rita the other day that long ago she made this statement. She didn't remember it, but I did. And she said, "Some give so others can go. Some are sent so others can give." And for many years, the Great Bend Dominican Sisters have had bazaars or ways to raise money that started unbelievably in 1910. And so the sisters got together and they did various kinds of crafts and baking, whatever, to raise money to build the first hospital. And later they used these fundraising activities for some of the ministries they had. But soon it became an annual November mission bazaar for the foreign missions. This was a way that we have raised money through the years to help. It was for, of course, the Great Bend Dominicans getting started, and you saw the beginnings were difficult. And so every year we've had what we call the annual mission bazaar to raise money, except for this year because of the virus, we're going to have to do it very differently by just having a raffle. But it's a great time for people to come together to celebrate. And I think if any of you have been here, I know a couple of the sisters have. It's just a fun time. So I want to share a screen here and get some pictures on.
Actually, Vicky has been at the bazaar. She had the experience of, I think, making cinnamon buns, I think.
I think so. Are we on, Bea?
Yes, you are. Thank you. Just click on the slideshow and then we will see it in big. Yep, that's it.
I'm not sure why.
On the bottom of your, yes, that's
it.
Yeah,
there it is. Okay.
Excellent.
I'm just going to show you some pictures of some of the things that are sold at the annual Mission Bazaar. If you can believe, these are light bulbs. Huh? And Sister Judith paints every light bulb by itself. Amazing. These are some of the other crafts that are sold. and associates and some friends of the community donate things. These are soaps and lotions and sunscreen, and back here you see vinegars, you know, different kinds of vinegars people make. Mostly Sister Imelda does these. Jams and jellies by the hundreds and hundreds of jars, and breads and etc.
Noodles.
And I think we know who this is, Sister Gemma. This is the bakery. The night before, or starting the afternoon before, many volunteers work in the kitchen bakery, baking, and we bake about 4,000 rolls to sell, cinnamon rolls and kolaches. Oh, not sure where that came on. Oh, I lost it all.
You can go back with the slides with the back arrow. Or you can, yes.
There we go. Okay. These are just some of the people working in the kitchen. Behind the gentleman there is the oven. So, no, that's not, yeah. Anyway, get an idea. And this is the frosting part. Those are just, that is one way of raising money for the missions. Another way is what we call reverse mission. And this means that we can go out to parishes and we talk about our mission areas. And dioceses invite us to come and speak about the missions during the weekend liturgy celebrations. And we used to go to more dioceses than we do now. Like we've been in Oklahoma, Texas, Colorado, and Kansas. And now we are invited to 3 of the 4 dioceses in Kansas. And we usually speak at about 6 parishes in each of the dioceses. So we do that every year. And another way of raising money, many years ago, one of our cousins was killed in a car accident, and his widow wanted to do something to remember him. And so she called Sister Teresita, whose picture you saw earlier, and she said, you know, we're farmers, and I'd like to do something in memory of my husband, and we know the value of water. Is there any way we could dig or pay for a well to be dug where water is needed? And so Sister Teresita wrote to Rita, and Rita said, of course, we would love to do that. So that began what they call the Water Well Project. And from this one person volunteering to do this, over 500 wells have now been donated by individuals, schools, organizations, etc. So we go from dirty water to a water in a well. And I love this picture. I think it says it all. So one gift can mean a lot for a lot of people. Pope Francis said that, you know, that the missioning of the 72 disciples reminds us that all of us are called to be missionaries. And it doesn't always mean that we're building things with brick and mortar, but more importantly, it means that we show people the presence of Jesus wherever we are. So there are many ways to do that. And of course, raising money, that's kind of how I've been involved in the missions. I've visited Nigeria 4 or 5 times, I can't remember right now. But I always come back with an appreciation of all the resources we have and the ways that we can so easily, by even small ways, be of service and help to others wherever help is needed. So I think we're open to questions if people have questions. So that's my presentation. I do have one more thing. I'm sorry. This particular well, and I just happened to pull up the picture, not because I was looking for it, but it happened to fit. But I got a card this year from these women in Geneseo, Illinois. And one of them said, "Here's a check for another well. I think it is number 18 or 19 so far." And she just goes on to say how through the years that one time when she was in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, she went to Mass at the Holy Name Catholic Church. That is where I originally heard one of your sisters describe well, the ministry, describe the well ministry in Nigeria. It made me so happy to complete that circle of giving wells.